So I invented a new sandwich. Kind of. I took all the best elements from Gordon Ramsay's steak sandwich, a Salamida Spiedie, and my previous experience serving drunk people to create the unofficial Salamida steak sandwich.
God damn!
When coming up with this new invention, I came to the conclusion that the bread, steak, sauce, and additional items such as onions, arugula, and cheese are the biggest things to factor in on this sandwich. Let's start with the steak. I went with a ribeye steak, which is what I used when I originally did Gordon's steak sandwich recipe. To include arguably the most important ingredient on a Spiedie, I marinated the ribeye steak in Salamida Spiedie sauce. This is going to give it the most amazing briny and herby flavors that are going to work fantastic on this sandwich. You're going to want to do at least 24 hours for the marinade, so I'll see you then. Look, I get it. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking these are probably pretty concerning looking. I'm going to do my best to get a nice sear on them, so I'm going to dry them off as much as possible, and we'll make it look good, but I know it's going to taste good, because that's the Spiedie marinade for you. All right, let's get going. After 24 hours of marinating, I got a skillet ripping hot and cooked the steaks to a nice medium rare, let them rest, and cut along the grain into thin strips. These came out ridiculously tender and delicious. Now that the steak is taken care of, let's move on to what I think is the most important topping, the onions. In Gordon's recipe, he cooked some large rings of onions along with a steak, some Worcestershire, and soy sauce. While that is great, I decided we can take the fun route and give the sandwich some additional texture with some crispy onion rings. But I needed to figure out which method would result in a better onion ring. One made with a dredge and panko breadcrumbs, or a buttermilk and flour situation. To start, I cut some large white onions into rings, and mainly kept the more outer layers for size consistency. To make the ones with buttermilk and flour, I simply combined 200 grams of AP flour, 75 grams of cornstarch, 2 grams of paprika, 3 grams of salt, 2 grams of black pepper, and whisked that all together. I then added another 200 grams of AP flour to a separate bowl and 150 grams of buttermilk to another. I tossed one of the rings in plain flour to coat, dipped into the buttermilk, then the seasoned flour, then back in the buttermilk, then finally in the seasoned flour one last time. To fry, I heated some neutral oil to 350 degrees, carefully dropped it in, cooked on each side for about 2 minutes, and set it on a wire rack. A plate lined with some paper towel does the job just fine too. Now for the other onion rings made with a dredge and panko breadcrumbs. In a bowl, I combined 120 grams of AP flour, 2 grams of baking powder, 8 grams of paprika, 8 grams of garlic powder, 2 grams of salt, and whisk. In a separate bowl or container, I added 185 grams of whole milk, about a half tablespoon of Dijon mustard, cracked in 1 egg, and mixed to combine. I then added my wet mix to my dry mix and stirred to combine. If it's looking a little too thick, just cut it with a small splash of milk. Add some panko breadcrumbs to a bowl, dust an onion ring in some plain AP flour, then fully cover with the dredge, toss in panko breadcrumbs, and fry for about 2 minutes on each side. Now that both of our test rings are done, let's see which one's better in general and which one deserves to be on the Salamida steak sandwich. Clearly this one has more color. It definitely cooked a little bit quicker, so I'm nervous about the onion on the inside. Might still be a little raw, but we'll find out. Clearly it's very, very crispy on the outside. I'm excited to try both, so let's try the panko breadcrumb one first. Here's an obnoxious sound test. Surprisingly, the onion is actually cooked perfectly fine. It's actually really good. Very crunchy. All right, and here's the traditional battered onion ring. Damn, shoot, that's good too. I will say the buttermilk is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this one. Let me think. All right, so I thought I was gonna like the traditional battered one more, but I think for the Salamida steak sandwich, this panko breadcrumb onion ring is gonna be the winner. All right, back to work. Next up, let's talk about sauce. Gordon's steak sandwich used a nice wasabi mayo, which I personally love. Spiedies, on the other hand, don't traditionally have a sauce, but when I serve them, I did a drizzle of a nice garlic mayo. So I landed somewhere in the middle, a mayo-based sauce with some Italian flavors. A delicious, herby and tangy, creamy pesto sauce. To do this, I made some homemade pesto, which I did a short on and I'll link it in the description, or you can just do store-bought. Both work fine. I didn't measure anything out here. I just did a 1-to-1 ratio of mayo and pesto, hit it with some salt and pepper, and a squeeze of fresh lemon juice. Stir to combine, and you have a simple yet flavorful creamy pesto sauce. Last up, before I assemble this, we need to decide on what to assemble it on. Spiedies are traditionally served on Italian bread, while steak sandwich is commonly seen to be made on ciabatta rolls. Honestly, my test here was to just taste them plain, and decide which one I think would work better with the flavors I'm working with. Italian bread was the clear winner though, so I got it prepped to be toasted in the oven. Now that everything is prepped, it's finally time to assemble. I took a glance at the drawing one last time and everything I had been working towards. Was I missing something? Will people like it? What will the comment section look like? Will I be laughed at for creating such an abomination? Fuck it, who cares? On the toasted Italian bread, I evenly smeared on my creamy pesto sauce, both sides. Then went on 2 slices of provolone cheese, which I didn't actually talk about, but I just thought it would be the best for the sandwich. I then hit it with a little flame. Next up was a hefty layer of the briny and herby Salamida Spiedie sauce marinated ribeye steak. On top of that go some greens. Arugula is perfect to bring some freshness while also introducing just a light bitterness. Up next, 2 of my perfectly crispy Panko breaded onion rings. And lastly, every king needs a crown. So on goes the lid of this never before seen, one-of-a-kind sandwich. All of the best elements of 2 icons, perfectly curated and crafted into the ultimate steak sandwich. Alright, I've clearly hyped this up way too much now, so let's go ahead and try it. Alright, there she is. That's the unofficial Salamida steak sandwich. Just looks insane. Might be a little hard to tackle, but we will give it a try. Oh god. This thing is absurd. It's a little absurd, but honestly, it works so well. It's 10 times better than Gordon Ramsay steak sandwich, that's for sure. Alright, if you made it this far in the video, that's pretty fucking rad. Definitely go check out Salamida. I'll have a link to their site in the description, along with the recipe to the sandwich. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.